Welcome to our review of the Royal Enfield Continental GT. I've just got back from riding this cool looking cafe racer around the narrow, twisty streets of Lake Como. The Continental GT and the Interceptor are the two new 650 twin engine motorcycles from Royal Enfield. With the introduction of these 650 twins, Royal Enfield are clearly making a statement about re-establishing themselves in the European and American markets. And given my experience on the Continental GT, they are a massive step closer to being proper competitors against other modern classic bikes such as the Triumph Bonneville and the Moto Guzzi V7. I've been really keen to try the Continental GT and compare it with other Royal Enfields that I've tried, which are definitely built for function and reliability over performance, and I have to say I've been really impressed. My first impressions when I got on the bike, apart from the fact that it looked pretty cool, is it felt really solid, well built, and it had some power. The engine is a 648cc parallel twin with a 270-degree firing order. The engine produces 47 horsepower, so not masses of power, but it definitely had enough grunt whenever I needed it throughout the day. The power delivery was very smooth. The fuel injection system gives it a really flat torque curves, which actually means there's power there wherever you are throughout the rev range, meaning you're not changing gear all the time. Really great. I mean, the gearbox itself, a 6-speed gearbox, and it has a really great mechanical kind of feel to it. There's a really reassuring clunk when you go into a gear, not like a lot of the modern bikes nowadays. This is definitely a much more basic mechanical bike. There is a super clutch on the bike, which is great. Generally speaking, the clutch felt really light and the gear changes are all really smooth. On the twisty roads around Lake Como, we didn't really get a chance to open up the bike properly and really test the engine. I'd be interested to see how it performs at higher speed, see if there's more vibrations, see if it still feels quite as solid as it did when we rode it today. The riding position on the Continental GT was really comfortable, quite upright. It has got clip-on bars and slightly raised foot pegs, giving it a bit more of an aggressive stance to its sister bike, the Interceptor. But actually we're riding it all day today. I didn't feel any fatigue from weight being pushed forward on my arms. It was a really overall comfortable riding position. The seat, however, is a different matter. This seat is not a very comfortable seat. I think if it was my bike, I'd be wanting to swap that out pretty quickly. The one we've got here is the two-person seat with the passenger grab rail on the back. There is a single seat version which I think looks cooler. I don't know if it's any more comfortable, but obviously it depends on your needs as to whether you need to have a passenger seat or not. But either way, I think I'll be swapping that two-seater version out straight away. The ride height is 79 centimeters. I'm 6 foot tall. My feet were flat on the floor every time we stopped. I think it's a really accessible bike for a lot of people. The bike handles really well. It's 198 kilograms dry weight, really light and maneuverable. We were riding around the twisty streets today. It took every corner with ease, no problems at all. The GT is designed to be a bit more sporty. It's got the clip-on handlebars and the slightly raised foot pegs. Standard ground clearance is 17.4 centimeters. Definitely sufficient for any road riding you're likely to do on a bike of this type. On the bars, everything on the GT feels like it's in the right place. It's quite a simple bike in terms of technology, so not a lot of dials and buttons needed, but everything does seem to be in the right place and of very good quality. There is this very small screen on the front of the bike that I tried. I don't think it's going to give you any wind protection at all. I think it's there really for styling. It does look really cool actually. I haven't tried the bike at high speeds or on the highway, but I can't imagine it would give you any protection whatsoever. But really, that's not what this type of bike is made for. The engine overall felt really solid. No unnecessary vibrations at all actually. Again, I'll be interested to try what it'd be like at high speeds. There may be some more vibrations at that point, but for most of the riding you're going to do a bike of this type, the engine was really smooth. You have a comfortable ride, apart from the seat. The engine sound whilst riding reminded me a bit of the Triumph kind of whine that you get from a Triumph engine, maybe to do with some of the guys who have been working on this bike and this project in the UK. The exhaust note when I was riding though felt a little bit lacking, but actually I heard a Continental GT in front of me and the exhaust note from their bike sounded really good. So even if you can't hear it when you're riding, it is a great sounding bike with a really reassuring, deep throaty kind of exhaust. Also, the twin chrome pipes look great and they really add to the aesthetics of the bike. The standard suspension on the bike is fine, nothing to write home about particularly. You know, the bike's quite a cheap bike, so I've got to try and control some costs somewhere, but it was fine for everything we did today. I didn't feel that it was too soft in any way at all. It's right way around forks, 11 centimeters of travel on the front. The rear has twin gas charged shocks with preload adjustability. I had no real issues with the suspension. It's probably an area for improvement if you wanted to, but it was fine for all the riding that we did today. The brakes are bi-brake brakes, which are the cheaper end of the Brembo range, but actually they're still Brembo brakes. Twin pot calipers at the front with a single disc and a smaller 240mm disc on the back with a single pot caliper. Having these brakes made by Brembo on a bike of this price is incredible. The bike definitely had enough stopping power for all the riding I like to do on a bike of this type and this weight. There's also front and rear ABS, great if you get yourself into a tricky situation. In terms of other features on the bike, that's pretty much it. It's a really simple mechanical motorcycle, no rider modes, no other electronic features like that. There's a very small digital display just showing your tripometer, odometer and your fuel gauge. But actually it's a really simple mechanical motorcycle, and to me that's one of the most appealing features about it. The looks of the bike, as I said before, the bike looks really cool. It's a really cool, modern, classic cafe racer style. It's got a beautifully shaped 12.5 litre fuel tank. It's got these gorgeous aluminium engine covers with Royal Enfield stamp in them. The engine fins have a mixture of painted and metal edges, making it look really cool. They also have these small knee protectors to stop your knees banging on the engine. Nice little addition, I think. Front and rear wheels are both spoked alloys, really in keeping with the styling of the bike. It's very unlikely going to take this bike off-road, so it's really all about style rather than strength. But personally, I think they look great. The tyres are the Pirelli Phantom Sports Comp. They are specifically designed for Royal Enfield. They look great on this bike. They've got a very cool tread that fits in with the cafe racer look. We didn't have any need to push the tyres today or to test them to their limits at all, so I couldn't say how good they are on grip, but they are Pirelli tyres, so I'm sure they'll provide grip when needed. The cockpit has a dual analog dials, rev counter and speedo. I think it looks really cool, really classic looking, very simple, very straightforward. Kind of the theme throughout this bike is very simple and very straightforward. I really like it. The bike that I rode had these really cool bar end mirrors. They are an additional extra, but I think they're really worth it. They really add to the styling and really make the bike look great. There's also a very cool retro looking fuel filler cap, really in keeping with the rest of the bike. Overall, the bike has been really well designed and is really stylish. The only exceptions that I would say are the light fittings at the back. They're very bulky, quite ugly looking, and don't really fit with the rest of the styling of the bike. But overall, I love the look of the bike. I think it's really classy, really cool looking. The price of the Continental GT is €6,500 here in Italy, and it also comes with 3 years warranty and 3 years roadside assistance. This shows that Royal Enfield really have great confidence in the build quality of this bike. A price that low for a bike of this standard is incredibly impressive. It's significantly cheaper than most of the competition and the build quality is extremely high. So who's going to buy a bike like this? I mean, I think a lot of people should take a look at it. It's a great bike if you don't have a big budget. At 47 horsepower, it's A2 license compliant. So imagine starting your motorcycling career on a bike that's as cool looking as this, well built and really has some personality. The power delivery is not intimidating, so comfortable for most riders on most journeys. So I think the market for this bike is very wide. It's also a great bike for customization. You don't want to be spending loads of money on your base bike when you could be spending that money on customizing it and making it look great. In summary then, the Continental GT is a great bike, really good build quality, looks great and at a fantastic price. The downsides, I would say, probably the suspension could do with being upgraded, but it wasn't really a problem. It doesn't really have any technology, but for a bike of this price, I think that's probably what you'd expect. And obviously it's got a very uncomfortable seat. I think I'll be swapping that out straight away. But I really enjoyed this bike. I think if you're in the market for a new motorcycle, it's definitely worth taking a look at. It's a really, really cool bike at a fantastic price. Very impressed by Royal Enfield. I think it's a massive step forward in the European and American markets, and it definitely gets a big thumbs up from me. Thanks very much for watching, hope you enjoyed the review and found it useful. Please don't forget to hit subscribe and we'll see you next time.